these bow strokes that make such a difference in the whole musical feeling of a piece. See, if you played that all on the string, as some people do, it wouldn't be any fun at all. We spoke with Lynn about the necessity, the importance of starting very young with the right bow habits. And you're going to have a lovely bow arm all of your life, I'm sure. Ray Sugimoto, 9 years old, has been studying with my longtime associate, Meta Watts, in the preparatory division of Temple University. I teach also in the preparatory division and in the college division, but I think it's terribly important that these young people get started in the right way. So I think you're going to play very well sometime. Thank you very much. as you remember, years back, I turned to the violin works of Ottokar Ševčík, and I found, playing in a string quartet all my life, the Curtis Quartet, that I had to match my bow strokes, very important to do so, with the colleagues with the violins and viola. So it was quite natural for me to get the editions of Ševčík that have been made for the cello. They are so exhaustive, you know, Ševčík, this edition, it's 4,000 exercises for the bow.
Look at that.
I don't think anybody ever went all the way through, but a selection, which I'm going to be making and we're going to be demonstrating, I think is the very best material we can have to develop the potential of the bow arm. So we're going to turn to what Ševčík calls 40 variations, his Opus 3. They used to be called 40 easy variations. They aren't easy, and we aren't going to use all 40 of them, but these, I think, are rather charming musically for Ševčík. It's unusual, and they develop wonderful feeling and facility of the bow. Can we try this first one of Opus 3? Yes, you see, that demonstrates this attack of pressure and release that we were talking about.
Yes, what I love about them is so much that there is this immediacy of, even within one plane, of the arm, right arm, feeling like it's really heavy in the string, and then suddenly, like it's floating. Yeah. And it's floating right after the attack of these short little notes. And then you have to suddenly put it down very deep for that, to make it da-da-da equal.
Right, yeah. Sometimes I have the pupils play it in solid triplets all the way through, and then in these little martelet up bows, and then combine the two.
It's very good for finding where to play and how fast to move, when to move for these short notes, because some of the notes, for instance, on a thick string, requires a heavier stroke at the beginning than it does on the A string. The A string, that would be too much. Sure. It's fine for the A string, but then it's not enough for the thick string.
On the bass, I think we have to stay in the string a little longer than on the higher strings. Yeah, so then we'll skip.
And when I worked these with you, Landy, I did them in the different tempi.
Oh, yes.
So that we got a great deal of variety and also closer investigation. For instance, this second variation, the tempo 144, you'd mark down to 112 through to 144 for the quarter note. But I was frustrated that some notes didn't speak, so I ended up playing at about this speed, because each note responded slightly differently, or later, or earlier, or more difficult, with greater difficulty or greater ease. Then, once you get to know that through the registers, then you can do it more up to tempo.
Right. See, that starts down bow, and then the next bar starts up bow, so that we balance and gain the facility of controlling the evenness of it. Yeah, now you might demonstrate it a little faster.
Yes, and of course you can...
feeling of bouncing.
Yeah, you can experiment with the different lengths too. You can play it more brushy, which would be more wrist action, or with energized motion in the fingers and a slightly flatter hair to get the bow to jump off the string, shorter.
Yeah, good, good. You're in good shape, Lynn.
Thank you. How many hours I had to practice that one.
Yeah, right.
Very frustrating at first, but the work has to be done.
Everything looks so easy, but we've been at it for years.
Yes.
We might do this one. That combines a sweeping arm stroke with a little bit of wrist in the piano.
This one musically I like a lot. Also, one can play slightly longer for the separate notes. Which is placing the bow a little bit more directly on the string before going.
It's very similar to the first one. Now, if we want to make a variety of tone, to make the little up bows in piano, then you just a little bit of wrist.
Yes.
Would be all it's needed.
Yes, it's very difficult, and one has to do it through relaxation, to go from very energetic, very strong, fast movement to very delicate and very small, miniature kind of movement. And Ševčík really demands that. It's easier on the violin because the string length is so much shorter.
That's right, that's right. Then we have a very bold one, up bows again, and then down bows. And then I like to have them reverse the bow, just being mean.
Yes, it really is. First bar is fun, but the second. Yeah, it requires a much firmer grip of the bow and firmer in the wrist so that one can keep track of where the bow hair is and where the string is in the violence of the movements as opposed to the first few.
A lot of energy in that one. Yeah, and how about this one? This is also rather bold and same all the way through. So the difficult thing, I think, is the articulation of the one little up bow.
Yes.
To make it very clean and have a resonance to it.
Yes, the arm continues through the rest, so the arm motion for the three notes under the slur is constant. And it's a little whip of the fingers for the cutoff of the second note and putting down of the bow and
just
gripping.
Show that again.
If the arm stops and is inert before this note, it's so often it just sounds stiff.
Yeah.
But dee-dum bum ba.
Yeah, that's fine. Yes, all of these are so musical. They all have a little character that's important to bring out. Then, this is a rather mean one, combining détaché, forte, and then a lifted stroke in piano.
I still remember as though it were yesterday that you said, no, it's a subito piano. In the second bar, because it's so easy to play da 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 with a little diminuendo before playing this piano. That way. But it really should be 1, 2, 3, 4 loud. And then to play soft after the 4/16 means a very quick releasing. That's a very good one. There also is more gripping of the bow so that the hair and the stick maintain the angle more emphatically for the forte, for this stroke. And then for these, then it's very loosely held so that the bow doesn't bite into the string too aggressively. That way.
Yeah, we want it to ring a little bit, sure. Yeah, that change of pace is hard. Then we have, all of these, of course, can be played and practiced in, as you said, in a variety of tempos.
Yes.
I would put a sort of a slow limit and a fast limit on each one. Yeah, this one is, I like. Piano. And we can make crescendo.
It is, and it has that feeling of a very precise rhythm of 3, which helps the bow arm move flexibly within a very tight rhythmic scale, which makes all these little nicks and crannies come out more accurately than if you just try to play stiffly.
Sure. Well, we can move forward. Now there's all forte. It's the same all the way through. The importance is, I think, to control those lifted strokes and also not bear down too much on the forte. It sounds very good.
It's very difficult to go from 16th notes to 8th notes and maintain an absolute exactness of rhythm, but it's absolutely crucial in classic repertoire. If you're playing in the quartet and you have for 2 minutes and then suddenly you go and it doesn't match up.
Oh, of course.
And
sure.
This exercise is excellent for that.
Well, this one is a little style exercise. Lovely Sicilian. Release of the bow.
Sometimes when one is practicing what are etudes, one is relaxed more than if you're practicing great repertoire. When you're playing something a great piece as the Fifth Suite of Bach can tend to make you tense, and if the arm is tense, you don't get a good result.
As Piatigorsky said, the scary thing about Bach is just on the first page you see B-A-C-H. That scares you.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Now, this one, the 10th, is one of my very favorites because it requires a quick movement of the thumb to get an angle change of the stick in the hair so that the legato notes don't continue to be bounced. Very easy to have this happen. If the bow is turned that way just at the moment of putting it down, a very fine coordination of timing, then it won't bounce. Et cetera. And that's very taxing when one plays the whole etude because you have to go back and forth so quickly. But this is such an important one for, for those articulations where you have to keep the bow staccato in one part and then legato for the next. In the Arpeggione Sonata of Schubert, it's so easy without this motion in the bow arm to have it sound, which sounds like 2/16 staccato and 2/16 slightly less staccato, instead of really legato and staccato.
Right. Yeah, and I think we have to warn the student not to get out too far in the bow, otherwise it gets more difficult to control the lift and it gets a little too picky. Yeah, and this is I like this one.
One can also retake after the dotted quarter and get back toward the frog.
That's good.
That's very instructive because by retaking, you get back to the frog for ease of articulation and control for the eighth notes. But one has to cut off the note without an abrupt stop. It's not musical. So the long note just decays, and then you come back at the right moment.
Yes, we want the eighth notes to have a certain resonance, and they won't if you're out here.
Yes.
It gets too sticky.
In the second line is one of my favorite places.
Yes.
And it goes on, continues. It's very difficult.
Oh, wonderful practice.
Remind me of this one now, the 12th.
Well, these are a little bite, and then that one also bitten, so that we want to articulate
Yes.
the 16th with a little bite, a little pressure.
With the first finger, pressing down to get a good purchase on the string before starting. It's also very good to, after playing so energetically, da-da-da, to then not play da-da-da at the beginning of the legato, but really legato. Da-da-da, thump, thump, da-da-da. It's so easy to go into.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, then we have one that has lifted bow and string crossings, which is very important.
Yes.
And you can start either down bow or up bow.
I always practiced it more on the down bow because it's more uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So it challenges one more. reminded of the solo passage of for the first cello of the orchestra of the Oxford Symphony, the last movement, which is echoed then in the horn. The violins have, and the cello has to play.
Well, all the Haydn quartets and Mozart, Beethoven, this kind of writing, and to bring out the bass as you're doing, and not emphasize the second note of each beat is terribly important, and we have to be so clean with it. It has to ring.
Yeah.
You want to do a little starting up bow?
Yeah, just a round motion in the wrist, but with a little bit of the energy of the fingers grabbing these thicker strings to speak quickly.
There's a little bite to the bass note.
Yes, without the fingers, without the fingers at all, you would get.
Oh, sure.
Which are short length notes, but they don't have that rhythmic pulsion at the beginning. You want rather than whoa, 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 whoa.
Gives it so much more character.
Yes.
Well, he has a variety of mixtures. They're all produced about the same, except this one that he wants one bar piano and the next bar forte. You want to try that?
I'll give that a try.
Down bow?
Yeah.
Excuse me. Yeah, on the forte, they're supposed to be smooth bows.
Yes, right.
So you get
challenging.
Well, a lot of areas of cello is so difficult to make speak, but of course, playing Bach suites, we have that challenge all the time, making it sound. Now here, he asks for a little circular up bows.
You can practice it, of course, all in one direction, this way, or that way.
I think the recovering the bow and having it ring is very desirable. Just try.
Yeah.